Hey everybody, welcome to day 76 of the Video Matrix 90-day video challenge, the power of now. Today's topic is going to be, I'm going to teach you something that I've learned through personal experience slash life lesson. And so what I'm going to be talking to you today is a couple different things that are sort of related to a story that I have. So the first thing that I'll say is that you have to close one door in life in order for another one to open. And specifically in regards to relationships, if you're unhappy in a relationship or a situation you are in life, you know, sometimes we want to search for something better or more that would be more congruent to us before closing the situation that we're in, and that really never works out very well. So if you know you're in a situation that you're not happy with, or you know, like a relationship that you know in your heart you don't necessarily want to be with that person forever. You know, sometimes people have fear of being alone, and I was definitely one of those people. And so you know, I know other people of the same that have had the same situations, and you tend to, you know, look while you're comfortable and staying in a relationship just for, you know, just for someone to keep you company, and that never really works well. So the other thing I'm going to be talking today about is abuse, and a book that has changed my whole entire life, and that I lend out and offer to people to borrow because it's changed my life so dramatically. So prior to meeting my husband, I was in a relationship that was abusive. And in that relationship, in that time, I knew something was wrong. I knew, you know, that I wasn't in a good situation, but I was also being very brainwashed and controlled. And so towards the end, it was almost a 3-year relationship. And towards the end, for about 9 months, I had this horrific rash all over my face, and that was really due to stress. I had such a high level of stress. I saw every specialist, dermatologist, you name it, allergy person, and nobody could help me, but because it turns out that it was stress. In fact, on the way to one of those appointments, I was like insane. I was being insanely yelled at in the car for no reason, to the point where I got out of the car and started walking. I mean, it was ridiculous. I was in a really bad place. So I ended up seeking help through this psychic. At the time, I used to be into that kind of stuff, but and I'll never forget, she told me, she said, you know, you're being abused, and so is also abusive. I'm going to keep that a mystery for privacy purposes. But somebody in my life was also abusive. And I said, oh my gosh, this girl doesn't know what she's talking about. This lady, crazy. Like, this person isn't abusive. So she let me borrow this book. It's called Why Does He Do That? In the Minds of Angry and Controlling Men. And I have the book lent out right now. I'm actually getting it back tomorrow, hopefully. And so I don't know the author, but it's written by a psychologist. It's called Why Does He Do That? In the Minds of Angry and Controlling Men. And so I went home to where I stayed, and I like hid it from this person and read it privately as I could. And what I realized was there was like 9 different types of abuse. You know, sometimes we think of abuse as being physical or whatnot, but sometimes it can be really, really subtle. And when you're in an abusive situation, it's really hard to see when you're in it. It's easier for someone on the outside looking in to see that. And so my eyes just started opening and the veil was just lifting as I continued to read this book. I actually started getting fearful for my life because I realized that the person that I was with was eight out of 9 of these, like a literal like narcissistic sociopath. Like, it was really bad. And so, you know, I was really stuck. And prior to that, I remember, you know, knowing that I was in a rough situation, and I was in this hot tub, and he was off probably with somebody else. Who knows what he was doing all the time. But anyway, I remember looking up at the stars and praying to God and asking him, you know, I wish that there was somebody my age that thought like I did, that was into health and wellness, that was into like spirituality and, you know, like-mindedness. And, you know, I want him to look like this. I was very detailed about what I wanted and, you know, just praying for it. But at the same time, I really wanted to be alone for a while because I had been in, you know, consecutive relationships that weren't healthy. And so, so I immediately, once I started to realize that I was in a really bad, worse spot than I even thought, as this book opened my eyes, I immediately started searching for a place to live. And so I found an apartment for rent, but it wasn't going to be available for about a month or so. So I was kind of stuck there. It was so torturous, to be honest with you. And I also started looking for another job. And it's so interesting. So I told you that I prayed to God about what I was looking for and what I really truly wanted and desired. And again, we've talked about in the past about how our thoughts become reality, and ask and it is given, and all of those things. It's so true that you can speak things into existence. And so anyway, so my mom invites me to a house party that somebody that she worked with was hosting. And it was a tarot card reading party, which again, I'm not into that anymore, but I used to be. And I remember being like, yeah, sure, I'll go with you. I didn't know anybody there. And the day of the party, I remember I was at my dad's side of the family, and we were playing cards. And I love playing cards, especially at that time in my life. And so it was a pull for me to leave and go. I almost was like, I don't know if I want to go now, you know. But I did go. And so we get there, and for some reason, so it was on the 2nd floor, and for some reason, I even feel like I walked behind my mom going up the stairs, but she said, open the door. And it was, I even remember being like, you want me to open the door? You know? And she's like, yeah, open the door. And so I opened the door, and it was like, I'll never forget this moment in my whole life. Was I immediately saw Jake, my husband, and you know, and I remember like he was like looking down, and like as he was taking a bite of this chip, he was like dipping a chip, and he looked up and we connected. And there was like a tunnel of light between us that I feel like you could actually see. It was crazy. And I feel like other people in this whole night could see it. And so I'm going to just tell you this story because it's a cool story, but that kind of goes along with what I'm talking about. So we all picked a number and to decide like what order people would go into this room privately with this woman. And meanwhile, there were things to eat and people were chit-chatting, and mostly my mom was talking to Jake because he was a gemologist. He studied diamonds and gemstones, and my mom was really into jewelry. So, you know, they had a lot to talk about. I just kind of sat back and listened, and then we ended up talking a little bit further in the night. But anyway, so I remember I was the one that got picked last to go into the room with this psychic lady with the tarot cards. And so she lays out all the cards, and she keeps saying to me, I'm really, really sorry. Like, you know, this relationship is over, and it's not good. And I was like, yeah, you don't have to say sorry. Like, I already know, you know, I already had my apartment lined up, even though I wasn't physically there yet. So, but I remember her just keeping on saying, like, I'm really sorry about it. And I'm like, no, it's cool. It's okay, you know? But then she said, you know, but I see this like relationship over here. And I was like, oh, really? I was like, yeah, that's so weird. I was like, I think he's out there. And she was like, she literally went, oh my gosh. She's like, I'm not supposed to do this. I'm not supposed to say this, but you need to ask for his number tonight. You guys need to like hook up because he said the same exact thing. I don't know if he was second to last or a couple before me, but his cards were reading out. Now, he hadn't been with anybody in like 4 years. He was really focused on his studies with gemology and all of that stuff. And so his main focus was that, and of course his health at the time. And so, but she kept telling him that he was in a relationship, and he's like, nope, no, I'm not in a relationship. I'm really not. And, you know, he said the same thing. You know, it's weird. I think she's out there. So that was such an unbelievable night. And I don't normally do this, but I went right up to him, and, you know, he was kind of, you know, a little bit shyer, and he was like, you know, maybe we could play pool sometime or something. And I'm like, no. I'm like, not maybe. I was like, let's exchange numbers, you know, which I normally am not that, you know, forthcoming like that. But so that was a Saturday. Our first date was on a Tuesday, and we've never been apart since. And what's really funny is when we got into the car, my mom and I obviously went together, and she said to me something very interesting, especially for her to say. She said, you know, you had this white light around you all night. And I was like, wow, that's weird. You know, like my mom doesn't usually say things like that. And I was like, that's interesting. And on the first date, Jake said the same exact thing to me. He said, you had this white glow around you all night. And I was like, whoa, that's weird. That's really cool. But I also think that other people in the room could see it too. And I really firmly believe that God brought us together. We are almost the same exact person, just male and female form. It's very interesting. And but we're also a lot of opposites, and we really go well together. And so the whole point of this story, the whole lesson in the story that I'm here to tell you is that, you know, I guess there's a few lessons that you really do have to actually close that door. You have to make a decision. I had closed the door. I had an apartment lined up. I was already out of that relationship mentally, everything, physically. I separated myself as much as I possibly could. And I didn't really intend on meeting Jake. I really intended on being alone. I really had a lot of healing to do. So there was a lot of healing within our relation. I had a lot of healing to do within our relationship, which turned out fine because he's an amazing person, and he's very understanding and very loving. And he taught me how to be strong and love myself. And so he's an amazing person. And, but yeah, I had a lot of stuff to go through. But yeah, so, but God answered that, that prayer right away. I thought that I had to go to California to meet my guy. And it turns out he was basically in my backyard. So really cool story. So you got to close that door. You can't be like looking around knowing if you're in a situation that you know isn't right or isn't forever. You got to just step away and maybe spend some time by yourself And the other thing is, so the other lesson is to ask for what you want in life, because it will come true. Writing things down is also very powerful, but being specific in what you want is key. And I mean, when I tell you that I envisioned everything, I mean, to what he looked like, to his personality, to all of the things, and we are very evenly yoked, and we just really go together well. So it's really powerful when you ask specifically for something that you are looking for, and it will certainly come into your life. And so it's not always at the timing that you're looking for. Sometimes it's longer. So in my case, it was very quicker than I expected or wanted. Sometimes it might be longer, but just keep on, asking for that. And thirdly is if you're in a situation where you feel like it's not right, and you feel like you may be being abused or you're being controlled by somebody. Again, it's kind of hard to know when you're in it sometimes, but if people around you are saying these things to you, it would be worthwhile to look into, because sometimes we have our blinders on and we can't see. So the book, Why Does He Do That? In the Minds of Angry and Controlling Men, changed my life, and I lend it out to people. It's almost always lent out because abuse is pretty prevalent, and it can be very subtle sometimes. And as I was reading the book, the person that she said was abusive towards me, I realized was true, but it's all I knew. And so anyway, so that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this story. It's a really good story of how Jake and I met, and some life lessons in there. So yeah. Anyway, I will see you all on day 77. We'll see you then. Bye, guys.